over there.
We implemented this program before the Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting, but that incident just reinforced why we need to bolster it. Because when you have mass casualty shootings, mass casualty events, officers are not only in a position to do the law enforcement aspect of it, but they're first responders. So there need to be, some type of combat medic type treatment for these individuals.
Welcome back, everyone. In this episode, we're going to be talking about a team that is helping to prevent mass shootings from occurring, and they are in studio with us to kind of tell us how that's actually possible. This is the Shots Fired podcast. I'm Mark Redlich. This is Kyle Schoberg. And in studio with us, we have Detective Dave Gibson from the Tempe Police Department out of Arizona to really break all of this down. Dave, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Dave, you're from Arizona. Funny story. We just got back from Arizona last week, and I almost died. I almost died in Arizona. We had to cut our trip short to get back here so that I could get to I was going to go to the emergency room. I ended up going to an urgent care, but I ended up getting a really bad case of strep throat while in Arizona. Let it go too long, didn't know that I had it, and was in a fetal position in my bed in the hotel room, unable to sleep, texting Mark, we need to get out of here, a flight home right now, let's get out of Arizona. So that was our trip. So welcome to California, dude.
Yeah, and I know what you're thinking right now is you're like, I'm sitting 4 feet from this guy that was deathly ill a little over a week ago.
Yeah, we didn't want to tell you that before, but...
It's too late
I've been
now.
on my medication. I'm not contagious anymore. It's all good. So
what you're saying is you're not coming back to Arizona?
I have family that live there. I do love it there. I have a little bit of PTSD right now, so maybe I need to give it a little bit.
Give it some time.
Yeah. And it was really hot there. It's like, 100 degrees there already?
90s is pretty good for us.
Yeah.
Hundreds, doable. Once you get into the late summer, August, 120.
Yeah, that's
not doable.
Little too warm for me.
I don't think it was that hot, but he was over here sweating and just.
Well, I had a 103-degree temperature, so that didn't help.
That raised it a little bit.
Yeah, and he's lugging me around, and I'm like, we went to a baseball game at Chase Stadium.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was cool. So
yeah, it was pretty neat.
I want to say it was a good time. I don't think I had that great of a time.
No, you were kind of a downer.
Dave, seriously, thanks for coming on, and thank you to the Tempe Police Department for allowing you to come on. And we're going to share with everybody how the Tempe Police Department has really teamed up with Critical Tech Solutions, and we're going to share with everybody how you guys are utilizing their new system on really how to prevent, these mass casualty events from happening. Look, at the end of the day, the public and people are scared to go to huge events nowadays, right? One thing that jumps to mind to me is the October 1 mass shooting that happened in Las Vegas. We had chatted about that. And, that was a historical event. And it almost seems to me like every time we turn on the news, there's another mass casualty event or another mass shooting. And Critical Tech Solutions has designed a camera system that you guys have implemented at the Tempe Police Department to deploy out to these types of events. One of them that you shared is the waste management open in Phoenix, and really we're going to dive into all that and how that's actually helping those types of tragic events from occurring by being able to have eyes on certain things. And you're a part of a threat mitigation unit at the Tempe Police Department, and we're going to get into all of that. So before we do, though, tell us a little bit about your background. You've been a cop for almost 20 years. Got a cool job now, but what did you do before?
Sure. Initially, I'm from Chicago. Came out here at the age of 18. Never looked back. Don't believe in winter anymore.
Well, no wonder.
Yeah, there is no wonder.
No wonder you went to Arizona.
Did some time in the military. Finished up at ASU, and then I got recruited out of a physical therapy clinic by the Tempe Police Department. That was 2005. Enjoyed the academy. It was like a big game compared to basic training. Hit the road, spent about 2 years in patrol, then tapped to go to the Mesa Police Academy as a recruit training officer. Did that, returned to patrol for just about a year or two. And then I had some friends in the traffic bureau, and they said, hey, Dave, this is fun. Why don't you come out and try it? So didn't get permission from the wife to do it, but just kind of sailed into being a motor for 3 years, 2 years on the nighttime DUI squad, 1 year daytime. Some of the best times, exciting and terrifying altogether. Pucker factor 10 at least once a week. So it was a good time. Transitioned from there back into patrol, FTO, Then I went into the Detective Bureau, domestic violence assaults, transitioned into robbery, violent crime. And my goal for 7 years up to 2019 was to earn a spot on the threat mitigation unit within our department. And here I am. So
That's right.
almost 20 years.
I couldn't imagine. Number one, I never wanted to be a motor my entire career. 'Cause-
That's not true. There was a
Okay, you're
period
right.
when you wanted to.
You're right. I did at one point test to be the motor unit sergeant, and I didn't get it. And looking back, I'm very glad that I didn't. But I want to know, man, like being a motor in Arizona, that seems brutal.
You have no idea.
How do you survive?
Well, I really wanted to go there after I saw that they transitioned to the full face helmets. I mean, you're like Judge Dredd on two wheels at that point. How do you survive?
You have like,
very
you have like
difficult.
you guys have like little fans in your helmets that like blowing on you with like little misters or
The number of times people would pull up next to me while you're stopped at an intersection. Hey, officer, do you have air conditioning in there? No, I do
No.
not.
yeah. And by the way, do you want a ticket? Because that's what I do.
Well, wait. Wasn't there a time when you had an intention to give somebody a ticket, but you
Sure.
just advise them?
Yeah, what happened with that, Dave?
I'm trying to remember what that story was.
So,
Can you share that?
You guys know police work. It's turn and burn. Made an arrest. He got transported to the jail, had to go down to do the booking. Of course, you can't bring your firearm or any weapons into the jail, so you storm in a locker. Great, all good. Finished up with that. Time to go 10-8, hit the road. Boom, I got another vehicle stop here. This is going to be great. It's going to be a good night. Dismount the motor, making my initial approach up to the vehicle. And every officer, they index. And when I index that holster, something wasn't there.
Oh, my
So,
gosh.
Yeah.
That vehicle stopped to turn into a real quick, how you do? This is a warning. Take care. Have a good night.
And then back to the jail.
and
You
off
went.
to
Oh,
the
yeah.
jail you go. Code 3. I've done it.
Yes.
I've done it. I don't know. Have you ever done that?
I was in training and we were pulling to the gates to leave the station. And my FTO was like, "You got everything you need?" I'm like, "Absolutely." He's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready to go." He's like, "Check yourself." I'm like, "I'm no." Okay. Like that is a gut feeling of like, oh my gosh.
It's definitely a sinking feeling in the stomach.
Oh yeah.
Every cop listening to this right now is like, "Yep, I've done that," and they're recounting that story in their head.
Oh,
but
for sure.
But I promise you, it should only happen
Once.
one time.
Well, it shouldn't happen,
never
but
do
it does. But it only happens if it does once.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is very much check everything.
Once it happens, it's a reinforcing factor to make sure you have your stuff together before you hit back out and go 10-8. So
Yeah. Well, you've had an interesting career. You've done a lot of stuff, but now you're on the threat mitigation unit, which is the dream job that you wanted at Tempe PD, and that's a large agency. Can you tell us what you guys actually do in that unit?
we do a lot of stuff.
Dave, if you don't want to eat the mic, dude, we can. Yeah, you could. There you go, man. You're good.
I kind of liked it right there for a
Yeah,
bit.
Yeah.
It's not a lollipop, dude.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, in all fairness, I did tell him he's got to get close to the mic,
I
but he's
know.
got some discipline. He
Yeah.
did not move.
Hey,
Yeah. It ain't a lollipop.
Follow-
There's
follow
no
the
gum.
directions.
There's no gum in the center of that or chocolate. So go ahead.
Well, so threat mitigation unit, it encompasses a lot. We do threat assessments on individuals who pose threats to, say, political figures, people in high-profile positions. We do threat vulnerability assessments on critical infrastructure within our AOR area of operation. We additionally are assigned to our special events section, so we also man a mobile camera system, which we utilize for our large-scale special events. To go along with that, we also train a unit called Intercept. Intercept is a plainclothes unit of officers who are specially trained, and they operate in two-man teams. Each team generally has one backpack, and those backpacks contain chest seals, tourniquets, shears, litters, space blankets, as well as rad-eyes, which are personal radiation detection devices. So we implemented this program before the Route 91 Harvest Festival shooting, but that incident just reinforced why we need to bolster it, because when you have mass casualty shootings, mass casualty events, officers are not only in a position to do the law enforcement aspect of it, but they're first responders, so they need to know some type of combat medic type treatment for these individuals. So that's what we do in terms of Intercept. We also deal with behavioral detection, behavioral anomalies. Our units are there before the event starts, get a baseline for the crowd. Our units are within the crowd. Sometimes you can speak with people within the crowd just to get a feel of how things are going. And then we're there after the event ends too, just to make sure that we cover all bases in terms of safety and security for attendees of our events.
So, all right, this podcast is not just specifically for law enforcement officers. Obviously, that's a big percentage of listeners, but there's a huge percentage of people that watch this show who are just your ordinarily or everyday citizen, right? Who know nothing about police work. So what you just said is pretty fascinating, because I think a lot of people want to know what are law enforcement agencies doing today in 2025 to help prevent these mass casualties or shootings from occurring. And I want to get a little in depth with that, because what Critical Tech Solutions has designed this camera system that you just touched on, the RAT. Talk about that. How is the Tempe Police Department deploying that? And how is it helping curb some of that? Because when we're outside doing this demo on this thing, I'm just sitting there thinking all the different ways that camera can be used. And it's attached to a vehicle, so it's mobile. It's not a trailer. It's not fixed to a light pole or anything like that where you can't move the thing. It's literally attached to your vehicle, and you can drive it around with it fully extended and get eyeballs on crowds, like you mentioned, certain people. That information can be live fed to a command post where people are watching it. And if maybe, like you said, you scout out somebody who you feel might be a threat to whatever event that they're at, I think by sharing that, people that listen to this might make them feel a little bit more comfortable that, okay, agencies are taking a proactive approach to trying to prevent these things from occurring, so that they feel safe going to a concert, a fair, a golf tournament like the Waste Management Open. I mean, people are terrified to go to things. I mean, honestly, me as a cop, I don't even like to go to a lot of big events, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And I may even be carrying a firearm, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to prevent something like that from happening. So touch on that, the camera system, and how you guys are using that to prevent that stuff from happening.
Sure. Let's start with special events. We are attached to our special events section. Tempe has over 30 large-scale special events yearly. So during those events, leading up to them, we're having planning meetings the week before, 2 weeks before. We want to understand what the crowd size is going to be. We want to understand what the promoters are expecting, what they expect from our department. Leading into that, we do our camera deployment for our fixed mobile cameras, which are on top of rooftops. Those can cover the footprint of Tempe Beach Park. But additionally, we have events such as Ironman, Rock and Roll Marathon, events that are outside that footprint that those cameras can't cover. So what the RAT enables us to do, Rapid All-Terrain Tower, it enables me as an officer to be in my vehicle, to be in different areas where there's a high concentration of attendees, and we can give our command real-time situational awareness of what's going on. And then those events like Ironman and Rock and Roll, those expand outside of our city, going into Phoenix and Scottsdale. So once those corrals empty for those runners, I can run the route in my vehicle with that camera system operating, and I can give real-time situational awareness, what this route looks like, what that route looks like, what's going on at this Phoenix intersection here, head to Scottsdale to the turnaround point, post up there for a period of time to show how the race is progressing, to show if there are any issues in terms of spectators, in terms of actual participants within the race. And I can make my way back down into Tempe and establish a point there at the end of the race where I can have a good vantage point where maybe those mobile cameras that are high up on a rooftop can't capture. The RAT can capture that. The RAT can give additional situational awareness to our command. And the interesting thing and important thing about the RAT is that feed can go not only to command posts, but it could also go to officers out in the field. So they can log into that IP and they can see what's going on as well too. And those officers provide information back to command, and then I can mobilize, move to any area to put eyes on that to give command complete situational awareness of the event and what's going on.
Well, what I think is interesting about that is, I mean, I'm actually blown away with how many massive events that you guys have. But I think about, if I'm going to go to that event as an officer and I'm having to work that, like what you said, you're still a guest at that place. I mean, you're working it, but there's still a fear of not only is an incident going to happen, but also now I'm responsible for doing something to help prevent that. And your team is doing a ton of stuff on the back end, intel gathering to get to that point. But having fixed cameras are huge, especially if you have those command centers where you have multiple people monitoring the camera systems. But those cameras can only capture so much. And if the crowd is moving, or it's an event, like you said, like a race, and the crowd is moving, you have the capability to move with them. And especially if you see something, you're like, this is unique. I kind of want to move and position myself to kind of gather more intel. You can do that. So what are some other things that you're doing with this equipment? Because the ultimate goal is to make those events safe to bring people in.
Sure. We're operating not only within our city, but the RAD is a regional asset, so other agencies can request it as well too. So we've gone to Scottsdale to help out that agency in terms of the Waste Management Open. They have a huge contingent of cameras that they've placed, but we also have that one camera, which is the RAT, which can go to any different location on the perimeter of that event that the command needs real-time situational awareness for, and we can feed that back to them so they know, okay, we need to put more uniformed resources in this area. It's just a force multiplier in terms of law enforcement agencies. Now, on that point, the RAT not only can be used for special events, but also critical incidents, any type of shooting incidents that may require some situational awareness in terms of what does this area look like. We can use it for that. And you all both very well know the times we live in right now where there are protests going on, and they're counter protests. So we're deploying the RAT in terms of safety for those protesters as well as counter protesters. We want to be able to show if this protest is occurring on this particular street corner, if they're marching, we can move with them. We can provide situational awareness. Okay, are the roadways clear? Are there counter protesters that may be potentially violent toward these people? And then that can give our command situational awareness to make decisions in order to keep people safe in terms of protesters and counter protesters. So it's very versatile in that aspect, and it's mobile, and it can go anywhere and be deployed by one person in a matter of 10 minutes. So that's why I say it's a force multiplier, because it's giving everybody situational awareness, not just the operator of the system, but everybody, all the stakeholders involved.
Yeah, I liked how it just connects to a tow hitch of a vehicle, and that thing is up and running, and then you can launch that up to 20 feet.
Yeah, well, everybody driving around who sees it, they think it's incredible too. So you have people with cell phones out and people mouthing different words that are like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it definitely is an attention getter and a conversation starter.
So we'll get back into all the tech aspect of the benefits of the camera, but I think people are also wondering, what other communications or tech are you using to make these events safer? Because we want people to go out in these events and feel safe. We got the concept that there's a lot of stuff going on that day, but how do you get this information? Like, who else are you working with to make this event safe?
So the Phoenix metropolitan area is special, I think, because we have a great collaboration relationship with other agencies. So we have a fusion center, which houses the different agencies as well as multiple three-letter agencies, and we have intel analysts there. So prior to special events or any type of protest, we're scouring social media, trying to identify any posts that may be a potential hazard to our event. So we have that social media aspect of it. And then we also have the collaboration of, okay, this agency may have had an event like that a year ago. So we're going to be gathering information from them so that we can build a whole picture of what we're going to see during our special event. And so it really goes into the collaboration of a fusion center being able to assist in terms of effectively managing special events and protests as well too.
So there's a lot of stuff that goes on way beforehand and then down to that day. So you had mentioned that you can operate this with one person. So walk us through when you're going to actually deploy this, what your role is, because I know you're part of a larger team.
Sure. So normally I am in the command post operating the camera system, but I do work with the team, so we're cross-trained, so other individuals do operate that mobile camera system too. But the RAT, I primarily operate on my own. I'm teaching other members of my unit the ins and outs and finer points of working it. But yes, I can deploy it easily. It's usually staged in my office. I can roll it out to our staging area at our station, mount it to the hitch of my truck, get the wiring done, get it powered up. Once it's all powered up, it immediately sends an email to my email with all the instructions on IP address, how to log in. So I'm up and operating within 10, 15 minutes, and I'm ready to deploy. So it's very user-friendly. It was created to be that way. There's no real instruction booklet. The POE hub, which is essentially the power source for it, you lift the hood of that thing up and it has the instructions listed right there, step by step, what you need to go through to get that up and working. So it's very law enforcement friendly, I should say. It doesn't require any additional education.
That means it's
like
dummy proof.
You said it. Yeah. Yeah. You know how we operate. It has to be
Coloring books and crayons.
very user friendly. Absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like that. I mean, and we were showing videos of the demo of it. I really like it is comforting, and I hope people feel like, and I said it earlier, like that comfort feeling that there are systems out there, companies in place that are, partnering with law enforcement to try to mitigate some of this stuff from occurring, so that we're not just always just reactive to it. We are being way more proactive to it, and so it is encouraging, to hear that Tempe PD is doing their part
Sure.
in taking with that.
Sure.
So, as I was thinking about this camera system too, and we were demoing it, there are so many other things that I thought that you could use this thing for. Like I was sharing a story with you just yesterday, how we were chasing a guy and he's jumping in backyards and we lock him in a perimeter. How you could throw that thing on the back of a SUV, a patrol car, if you needed to, with a tow hitch, launch the camera up, and you could rove around a neighborhood and you could have eyeballs in different people's
Sure.
backyards looking for a wanted suspect. So, and then Mark, you brought up the SWAT angle of it.
Yeah, that's where I come from a full-time SWAT team, so that's where my mindset went, is the command post. If there's an incident, say you're going to actually hit a house, maybe a surround call or a dynamic entry, if you have a surveillance vehicle, or you could even have it drive up at the same time, deploy that, because, you got that, you would have it set, but you raise that thing in a matter of seconds. Get that thing up. Now the command post has a full visual of that actual picture of what's happening, because there's different viewpoints, but having the overall viewpoint of that, and then start your SWAT deployment, or even those call outs that start from a patrol call and escalate to a SWAT call out, and you're staging and you're waiting to deploy that. That's a different viewpoint that management has full eyes on it. They can see what's going on in real time. You're still communicating. You still have the ones running the scene, but they have a really good view of what's happening. I actually like this concept. I wish it was around when I was on the team, but that's a really good concept for the command post to see what's happening.
Sure. It has essentially loiter capabilities. SWAT teams, they're utilizing drones now, not to take away anything from the drone program, but it could absolutely be utilized for scenes like that. Barricades where you need continuous coverage of an area. I've deployed it for upwards of 12 hours at a time. And you have that continuous real-time view and situational awareness of a scene. And it can absolutely be deployed, and it can cover up to like an entire residential block in terms of the height that it can obtain, and the point, tilt, zoom capabilities of the camera. Additionally, the nighttime capabilities are phenomenal. You just have maybe one street light about 200 feet away. It's going to be able to take that, whatever ambient light there is, and use that to create an outstanding picture, nighttime, daytime. And the zoom, as I've said, you can zoom in and basically read a license plate almost 2 blocks away.
And yeah, we saw that. But even if you were to have, and I've been on a call out where the suspect was at a position where we were at, there's a solid perimeter with the patrol units, but where we were at, we couldn't quite see him. And then we had to wait for him to come into view. But it was hours that he refused to leave. But drones have their place, but they're limited. In this, you could bring that up, raise it, you have perfect eyes on it, you have someone monitoring that camera. The command post is also looking at it, and you can really say, okay, real time, this is what's happening. You have your team that are visually watching that as you're trying to give commands, and H&T is using their resources to try and talk a person out.
Absolutely.
There's a real value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of the law enforcement aspect, yes. But I also want to turn the flip side of that to the possible fire side, first responder and emergency situations. When we're observing a crowd, we can zoom in, we can pick out different areas, and somebody's having a medical event, we can radio that back in. Hey, it's going to be in this area, and we sometimes use a grid system. It's going to be in Charlie 5 right here. So we have fire resources that are out there, and we can talk them in and get them into a scene faster than they could without having those eyes on them. So we like it in terms of that, in terms of using it with law enforcement, fire, all of our stakeholders involved. It's going to be a benefit to everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot of other camera systems out there. I mean, everyone's getting into the tech world right now. I mean, that's the future of law enforcement. Like, right? We know that, and AI and all that. So, but what I do like about this is those camera systems are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you know as well as I do. Well, all three of us know as well as I do. The number one thing that kills any program is money. Agencies are only budgeted for so much money. Cities are only budgeted for so much money. And it makes it really challenging and difficult when you want a new piece of equipment and you always get told no. Why?
Sure.
Because it's not within the budget. This camera system is extremely affordable, and you just cut that cost reduction down more than half.
Absolutely, because you can deploy for the cost of the camera without divulging exactly how much the camera costs or the whole system.
Yeah.
It can be deployed. You can have multiple rats, and they can be deployed in different areas. You can 4-point a perimeter of someplace. It's so cost effective and so effective in terms of giving situational awareness and real time awareness of what's going on that for the cost. Just an example, there was an expo I went to last month where it had high dollar camera systems. These things were phenomenal. They were great. But when it really comes down to it, we didn't need everything that those different systems had, which were high dollar items. We just needed that effective camera system that we can deploy, can be mobile, and the camera itself is phenomenal in terms of its capabilities. So,
well, we keep talking about how it attaches to a trailer hitch,
yes.
but I think it's important to point out the two other aspects. There's wall mount, and then you also have the tripod. So if it's not attached to a vehicle, you still have the capability. It comes in the luggage or like those rugged cases where
Sure.
you could tow it around. You could go up to an elevator. You take it different places, a rooftop. But what's the height of these when you extend it to the point? Like how high can you get this camera?
So the mast that I have goes up to 30 feet, and I also have a tripod base for it. So say there's going to be an event with a dignitary at a specific location within our city. I can mount that on a rooftop of a building, and we can have good situational awareness, eyes on of the dignitary approaching, any potential hazards that are going to be associated with that, protests, anything of that nature. So yeah, you can deploy it standalone, leave it, go blocks away, and you're still able to control the camera system. So it's a game changer in terms of law enforcement agencies being able to deploy new technology that's effective and ensures the safety of everybody involved.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to circle back to how cost effective it too, because you're right. Like you hit on a good point. You go to these expos and you see all these fancy high dollar camera equipment. And I don't know, like sometimes I look at that and I'm like, no, agencies aren't going to buy that. Like they're not coming up with either millions of dollars or if not hundreds and thousands of dollars to buy some of these crazy high and expensive camera systems that are out there. And like you said, dude, yeah, most of the time you don't need less than half of what's on those, what they offer. This thing comes with the necessary things that you would need to be able to do your job. And so that's what I really liked about it, is that it is affordable and agencies should be able to purchase this type of stuff. And so, what did you have some?
Yeah, I mean, my mind just keeps thinking of how practical some things are, because the whole focus of our podcast is to provide education to the general public, bridge that gap, but provide training. And we are all about training, but you could even use this for training. You could film something from an aerial view wherever your incident is, whatever you're working on, if it's canine deployment, if it's patrol, if it's movement, if it's riot and control where you're practicing, you can deploy that. But I also go back to like, what about our detective divisions? Like you're talking about surveillance teams. I mean, you run a team. If you can't get your UC cars in a location to do surveillance on a location, or if you're trying to do a different operation where you just can't get eyes on that, I mean, you could deploy this from a block away, raise that thing up, it's discreet, and you could zoom that thing in, stay there for a certain amount of time, get the intel that you need, or provide the eyes on location for your team or something that's going to end up making that approach and doing that, serving that warrant. I mean, it's super versatile. I mean, I just keep
or even keying someone out a door. Like we ran into an issue recently where a guy was wanted and sitting on a ton of guns, threatening to shoot it out with cops. We needed to key him out a particular door to get a warrant. And where the apartment was, or this little duplex, we could not effectively do that without burning ourselves. And so we had to end up using a drone. But even the drone was a little sketchy to do that because, you know, that's a little weird, a drone flying above you.
Yeah.
You know,
You
that's
can hear it.
Yeah.
you can hear them. They're loud. But something like that, yeah, I like that. You could park that thing down the street
Yeah.
a block away, and nobody would think twice about it. And the zooming capabilities would have worked perfect for something like that.
Oh, absolutely. One other thing I want to touch on is it's so user friendly, and if you have an issue with it, we have a great relationship with the company. They're not so huge that you have to dial an 800 number and be on the line with customer service. We have contacts with the owners of the company, and they will provide you with whatever help you need 24/7. So it's really good. I abuse that sometimes, but they're really good in terms of if I have an issue with it, they're going to do whatever they can to get it up and functioning again. So it's really a good partnership too, and the company's going to grow, and the technology is increasing too as well. So I just want to say that I think law enforcement agencies and other agencies in Arizona are starting to go to this system as well too, because they see the value in it, and it's just
Well, we keep
multiplier.
raving about how good this product is because it is good. We're outside, we watched the demo on this, but I think if anybody's interested in seeing this product and investing in it, it's criticalts.com. They're on
Yes.
social media. You can even Google RAT, R-A-T-T, or Critical Tech Solutions, and they're the first ones to come up. But I want to go back really quick because, again, we go back to how are we creating a safer environment for these crowds? And you would hit on your team goes in and has backpacks with all this mass casualty care incidents. What's the coordination and communication with that? Is this deployed in all these events? Is it UC? Like, what are we looking at for my own safety if I go to an event?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, there's overt safety measures and there's somewhat covert safety measures. We want the general public to see, oh, there's the rat right there. Okay, they got cameras. Oh, maybe there's a SWAT team somewhere. But we also employ plainclothes officers, not necessarily UC, but plainclothes, earpieces. They have every piece of equipment needed to conduct their law enforcement duties. But additionally, we operate in two-man teams. Sometimes we'll have up to 4 of those teams within the large-scale special event. And that team has a backpack with chest seals, tourniquets, shears, litters, space blankets, and as well as personal radiation detection devices in case of you get that unfortunate dirty bomb. So those units are within that footprint right there. And, general public may not notice them except for they may have an earpiece coming out of their ear, but they're there, they're communicating. We're either radio-based or cell phone-based. And so command can say, hey, we need team 1 to go to this entrance point right here to observe this. We may have an issue right there. And just because they're plain clothes doesn't mean they're not going to take any action. They will get uniforms in there, but to bolster those uniforms, those intercept officers will also engage too as well. So that's a model we've kind of taken from every single bad incident that's happened in the past 20 years, whether it's the Las Vegas shooting, whether it's the vehicle ramming events that have happened nationwide and worldwide. We're taking proactive steps. We're deploying more vehicle barriers in different areas so that we can prevent vehicle intrusions, because in our area of operation, we have a lot of potential areas for intrusion. So the camera system can identify those points. We can move resources, barriers to those areas. And it's a holistic approach to making sure everybody's safe within an event. And sometimes we want the general public to see that, gives them peace of mind. And then there are other aspects of how we deploy, whether it's tactical or some of our camera systems, where they don't necessarily need to see that, but just as long as we have the complete picture to make sure that crowd's safe and make sure it's a safe event for everyone involved.
That's impressive. I mean, I've never actually heard of that concept. I don't know if any agency here in the region has deployed that model, but I'm impressed by that. I know you guys said that you've taken the ideas or all these other horrific events that have happened over the last 20 years to kind of develop that. Or are other agencies in the region doing what you guys are doing, or is that just particular to Tempe PD or what?
There's similar groups within the state of Arizona, but we've kind of specialized it a little bit more. We're doing a lot of behavioral abnormality detection. So those plainclothes officers, they're specially trained in behavioral detection. They get to events before the event starts. They're there throughout the event, and once the event concludes. So if you're there before, they're going to be able to obtain baselines on the crowd. What is the crowd really? You're going to a special event, a country music festival. Okay, you know what the crowd's going to be. Cowboy boots, some jeans, some short skirts, all that.
Yeah. Little Daisy Dukes,
Yes.
male and females.
But then you may have that individual coming in there with a long jacket, baseball cap, sunglasses, and a
Yeah,
backpack.
totally.
And it's just
Yeah, he's out of place.
they identify that, and we contact that, or we'll monitor that. But it's
That makes me feel comfortable. Like
Yeah.
if I'm going somewhere, like let's say in the city of Tempe, if I lived anywhere in the city of near Arizona and I know I'm going to an event in Tempe and they listen to this, like I'd feel really good about that, even if I had to melt. But that's pretty powerful that you guys are able to do that, because you're right. Like you look at these people who engage in those types of shootings or these mass casualty events, and they do stand out. Like you look at them after the fact, and people always question, like, how did the cops not key in on that guy? And sometimes I think it comes down to, sometimes you know how it is. Cops don't want to be picked on for profiling somebody, right? And so I think that's part of it. But the fact that you're training cops to understand that behavioral analysis, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, to understand that, you're one step ahead of maybe preventing something like that from happening, and then also utilizing that camera system as a full force multiplier.
it goes
That's
hand in
freaking
hand.
rad.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool. And again, if I'm a public member listening to that, I would be impressed that at least your agency is taking those steps to help mitigate a huge problem from happening. Because once something like that kicks off, you're playing catch up.
I'm curious to see what you guys, we talked about the intel gathering and everything that you do beforehand. We've covered what's happened during the event. What do you guys do after? The event's done, everyone's going home. What do you do with that intel information, sharing, debrief? Like, what do you do? Do you just call it a day, or do you do something with all that for next time?
It would be nice to call it a day, but we do have after-action reviews of events. We're there as the crowd's egressing. We want to monitor those points of egress. And then not only that, we have our traffic resources, which are monitoring the traffic patterns, because it does get quite congested at the conclusion of events.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 360 type of thing where, okay, the event's over with. That event's going to happen again next year. So a month, 2 weeks before, we're going over, okay, how did that event go this time? What resources do we want to employ? What do we want to add? What do we maybe want to take away? So it's a continuous planning cycle. As I said, we work closely with our special events section, and as more than 30 special events in the city of Tempe. People come to Tempe because Tempe has safe events. We have to maintain that,
Yeah.
and the public believes that we can do that. So we're going to use all available resources that we can to do that, whether it's our RAT camera system, whether it's our plainclothes resources, whether it's our uniformed officers, who are a great asset within the event, because people can see, okay, that's an officer. I feel safe right now. And I don't want to leave out our fire counterparts, because they're in the events too. They have mobile walking teams on ranger carts and stuff, so they can get in and get out.
Yeah, we don't ever want to leave the fire guys out. We love you guys too. Shout out to the firefighters. So if I'm a cop listening to this and I'm in charge of any type of special event in my city or the city that you work for, or even just a cop listening to this, like, I would take note on the things that you guys are doing, and I would adopt that model to our department. I know it's going to be a discussion that I have with my agency, because again, I haven't heard of that before and I haven't heard of it happening. And so those are really good concepts. If people did want to reach out, can someone reach out to you if
Absolutely.
if they have questions on, hey, how do you guys go about even starting this type of program? How can they do that?
They can contact me direct or go through my chain of command, but we will absolutely aid any agency in need who wants any additional training, wants to know exactly how we operate. We're all for that. So I can
that's
provide
awesome.
my contact information.
Okay, we'll do that. We can either put it in the description, or they can I guess, get a hold of you through the Tempe
Well, you're
Police
saying
Department.
personal contact. What's your cell phone?
Yeah, let's throw that out there, dude.
Yeah.
What's your cell phone number?
How about we start with the email
First
first?
person to text Dave gets a free gift card.
Yes. At night, because he works nights. And he likes texts and phone calls at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm 24/7. Whoever needs something, we pride
No,
ourselves
that's really
in being
cool,
able to help
man.
out.
Yeah. No, I think it's such a great idea. I'm fascinated by that. Well, if you're in law enforcement, I strongly encourage you to go to criticalts.com, check out these camera systems, adopt this model to your agencies if you can. Get in touch with the Tempe PD. They're willing to help you out, get the training that you would need to get these things started. But these are very affordable. And there's a link on the website that's for customer stories. If you want to read in depth with some of the customers that utilize these camera systems and their stories that they have shared in depth with how it's assisted and helped them in large events. So, Dave, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Telling us what you guys do. I'm blown away by how progressive the Tempe Police Department is with, the things that you guys are doing to help mitigate these mass casualties from happening. It's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah, I'm stoked that you made the trip over here. Thank you so much. I know you enjoy the weather that we have right now, but to know that there's all that stuff that is going on before event, during event, and even after in prep for the next event makes me feel very comfortable going to larger events, and especially with the equipment that you're deploying and how you're using it and how versatile this stuff is. I mean, this is really interesting to hear. So thank you for coming, Tempe PD. Thank you on their behalf for allowing you to come, and Critical Tech Solutions for offering this product, because this is huge. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate your time. Appreciate you having me. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
All right, well, that's it for this episode. We will see you guys on the next one.
Stay safe and be smart.